Now, once you have that understanding, what you need to do is you need to be ready to go ahead and fix some gaps. There are a couple of steps that a lead has to go through before the actual sale happens. Now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get as much information about the value of each of these touch points and what these touch points are going to be conveying to us. Now, when you have these activities, you're trying to get details from the previous step at each stage so that you will know if this is more value to you, you will go ahead and focus more on this step. Now, how do you know what is the value of each of these touch points? That is where something called as a Google conversion calculator comes into picture. It is a tool that helps you understand what is the value, what is the conversion value of each of these stages. So simply going ahead and creating a campaign with a CPA or CPL or CPI metric doesn't solve the problem. We need to look at and we need to think in terms of value, right? What value is each of these parameters are bringing in? What value are we getting at each stage where a user is moving from one stage to another? Now, when you look at these conversion-oriented, value-oriented conversions, and when you start bidding on these conversions, that is when real magic unfolds. Now, if you start looking at what is the difference between bidding on a conversion value versus like something like a target CPA. Now, when you have a target CPA, you're simply telling the system that I need a CPA of, let's say, $4 for me to go ahead and convert. But conversion value is where you're telling Google that I would want to bid only where there is maximum value that I see. So when you have that, your ROI will be much more efficient than simply going ahead and bidding on, let's say, a target CPA, right? So once you do that, you will arrive at a stage where you need to take care of three things. First thing you need to do is you need to ensure that privacy concerns are addressed. The second thing that we need to be looking at is once that is done, then you need to looking at a value bidding strategy, not just maximizing conversions or the volume of conversions. You need to be looking at maximizing value. The third thing is you need to be looking at the creatives, about how good your creatives are and how you can capitalize on how you can use creatives as a powerful weapon to get the maximum conversion value. Now, today's day and age, privacy is a bit of a concern, and it is always better to go ahead and gather as much as first-party data as possible. First-party data is the data that users give in when they interact with your website. It is not something that you have procured. It is not something that you have purchased. This is the data users have given it themselves. Now, even when you get first-party data, it is very difficult for us to get a complete understanding of a holistic picture because let's say the first interaction happened on a desktop, the second interaction happened on a mobile phone, right? And the third interaction of the user happened in the physical store. Now, for us to go ahead and start looking at getting, even though if it is this, you have the person's first-party data, it is very important for us to get missing pieces of information. Now, unless you have these missing pieces of information, you cannot do anything about it, right? So now here you have people moving across different devices, different platforms. So this is where things get a little tricky, and you need to be focused on getting as much of these gaps filled. So you will start using things like enhanced conversions for web, where the gaps between offline and online data is bridged, and you will get a complete picture as to how many people have converted online, offline. You will start importing your offline data into the online system and get a complete picture. All right, so once that's done, we need to start getting high value customers through automation. Now, when we speak about automation, we are not talking about automation techniques. We're not talking about automation tools. We're simply talking about a simple fact that not all conversions are same, right? Not all conversions bring you the same value. Now, in such a situation, why are we running about the volume of conversions? So we need to be looking at what aspects of this journey from a user becoming a customer, that is the lead to sale journey, what stages are bringing in the more value to me? So we should be bidding on the value and not how much it costs to get a customer. We're not looking at CPA. We need not be looking at CPA to get, it is not reasonable for us to give the same treatment to all touch points and to all customers, because customer value, how much are these guys bringing in, is more important than the volume of conversions. So when I say automation, you need to be looking at automated bid strategies, and you need to be looking at things like conversion value, maximize conversion value than the volume of conversions. Right? For example, smart bidding and broad match keywords bring in a lot more value than simply looking at targeting using CPA. So basically, value-based bidding strategy is something that needs to be focused upon. Now, the next thing we need to be looking at is creative in itself. Now, creatives is thanks to Google that the expanded text ads are gone and now it is only responsive search ads. We need to be feeding in as much data as possible to the system for it to begin its research. Now, with the advanced systems today we have, responsive search ads will look at a list of 10 headlines and then pick the right combination that makes your ad bring more value to you in terms of conversions than just showing any random bland text that you have already put in. So capitalize on these creatives and look at how you can use, let's say, YouTube ads as a combination with, let's say, a bidding. We need to look at how creative can your responsive search ads be and how creative can your YouTube ads get using creative library, etc. Right? So that is something, because at the end of the day, creative is the deciding factor, and that is the first point where your customer or your user interacts with your business, right? So then we have a stage where we are going to execute things. Now, very often I've seen marketers and businesses strive to get new platforms, strive to get new campaigns, strive to get new formats that they can capitalize upon. But there is something that you need to keep in mind. What you need to keep in mind is first capture the existing demand, which means on Google search, let's say you have Google search, then you have, let's say, Google display, where image ads are shown, and then let's say you have YouTube, right? So this is YouTube, this is display, and this is search. In all these three networks, where is the search intent more? Where is the pre-existing demand? Pre-existing demand happens here because people are actively searching on Google. They are searching for something that they would want to either buy, to get, to read, to know, whatever, right? And to some extent, YouTube also has the same behavior. So why don't we start capitalizing on areas or networks where there is existing demand and then start advancing towards other networks where you can build your ad inventory and start showing to more wider audiences. So capitalize on this pre-existing demand is something that we are talking about. And then once you do that, expanding not just one aspect of your creatives, all the while what we were doing is, if this is your funnel, we were always hitting hard here to get as many conversions as possible, right? But that, I think, is going to be an old strategy and a strategy that may not work in today's day and age, because you need to be looking at promoting across the funnel by showing relevant ads to relevant people, because once you have exhausted this, you need a constant supply of leads come in, right, that can be nurtured through this process. So basically, we should not be looking at only converting the bottom line. We need to be looking at getting enough leads or pipeline at both bottom of the funnel and the top of the funnel. So one is to start with existing demand wherever there is existing demand, like search networks, expand your creative inventory and then start advertising on other networks. Along with that, also remember, do not only focus on getting in cranking out those conversion related ads only. You need to be looking at something called as a full funnel marketing, right? So that is what your execute phase talks about. Then you have test, and slowly, gradually expand like a web. Do not leave any gaps. When I say any gaps, any company can only spend so much. There is always going to be a limit on the budget that they can spend, right? The spend limit is always going to be there. For some, it may be $100. For some, it may be $100,000. For some, it may be $5 million. But that's it. There is always going to be a limit on spending amount, on spending money on your ads. When there is a limit, why don't you milk everything that this spend has to offer you, right? We start looking at budget is exhausting, and then we start moving to other networks or cheaper networks where you can buy traffic for less. But have we done enough in these networks? Have we milked this network enough, right? That is most very often the answer is no. So what you need to be looking at is you need to be looking at certain data points like, let's say, impression share. See where you're spending unwanted, right? Device exclusions. See if you're showing on unwanted devices. Milk, optimize these campaigns. You can take the assistance of the Google optimization score, but I don't blindly suggest you to go buy it. It is just an indication as to see what you're missing out on. If you're already leaving money on the table, don't leave those gaps if they make sense to you. But if Google is simply asking you to increase budgets, then you don't have to. So look at this optimization score and then decide for yourself, right? Then you have experiment as much as you can. There is run A/B tests. There is a test and experiments tab that on Google Ads. So run those experiments to see test various variations out, different strategies out, different bids out, and then make a decision. And don't leave any opportunity on the table, which means see wherever there is a scope for you to optimize, get maximum out of whatever you can achieve, go for it, right? Now, then you have a complete understanding of what you need to be doing at each of these stages so that your lead generation process is straightforward. It is, I mean, there are many ways, there are many paths to lead generation, but if you follow this framework, it's pretty much straightforward and easy so that you can go ahead and start getting maximum growth with a simple, structured, easy approach. Thank you so much. I hope you like this lead generation blueprint. My name is Casey. I'll be seeing you again in the next video. Cheers until then.